Good morning. Stay. How's everyone doing? That's good. I don't know why I write notes anymore. Then you get to your notes and you wonder if you were really listening in the first place. But we have an invitation. We can walk with Him, or we don't. That's our invitation. It's kind of like the wedding. You're invited to a wedding, but no one wanted to come. Kind of like the woman in Song of Solomon. I've laid down to rest. I'm content. I'm comfortable. What else do I need to do? I've washed my feet. I've washed my hair. I've put on my robe. In other words, I've lived out my religious duties. I clapped, I worshiped, I gave some money. I've done everything that's ritually expected of me. But He comes and knocks. But we don't want to do anything. We want to... I got a pot roast in the oven. And I got to be back home at 12:32. But the invitation to intimacy looks a lot like death. Looks a lot like dying. There's actually no, in my opinion, there's no greater form of intimacy with the Lord than to walk in knowing Him in His death, His sufferings, and then His resurrection. To be honest, me even being up here right now, I told Brad, I said, I don't want to give this message. He goes, well, it's probably the message you need to give. I said, I don't want to. Because if I've learned anything in 20-something years or however old I am walking with the Lord, anytime I say something from this perspective, I expect it to come up. I'm having to walk this out now, and I don't want to walk this out now. But I also know then it's like this is kind of like a confessional of this is where I'm at, and now it's about to suck even more. Guess I'm alone in that one. The only formula that the Lord ever gave about loving was that it requires death. On every aspect of it, no matter what it is. If you're going to love Him, you need to die. If you're going to love your spouse, you need to die. If you're going to love your kids, you need to die. If you're going to love yourself, you're going to need to die. But we have to be willing to walk it out with Him before we're willing to walk it out with others. And if we're not willing to walk it out with Him, everything we're doing is in vain because we first know love because He first showed us love. In other words, we don't know what death looks like because we need to walk it out with Him in that moment, in that time. We know what death looks like because He first showed us what death looks like. Death wasn't just Him going to a cross. Death was His daily life, walking with us each and every single moment. And even still saying, while He's hanging from a cross, they don't know what they're doing. Forgive them. But how often are we in a situation where something's happening to us and it's at the hands of another individual? And we go into like what we call spiritual warfare. I like to call witchcraft. We go into witchcraft over that person and start rebuking them and in the spirit and, and some random other stuff, shaking a rain stick like we're Rafiki from Lion King. In correction, I know your father. It doesn't matter. It's in the past. But if we actually can get into a place of living, forgive them, Father. They don't know what they're doing. We come into intimacy with Him. But each time that we stand up and, well, I'm right, they're wrong, we walk further and further from the Lord. But each time there's a situation to love, it's Him knocking at the doors of our hearts, saying, hey, why don't you let me in this situation? But what we're wanting to do in that matter is punch the lights out of the individual that's causing us the friction in life. And then we wonder why we're circling around the same mountain the whole time. Because we need to die. And we're fighting the whole time. In my 20 years of walking with the Lord, I've only heard one story about somebody who said they were willing to die for the Lord, to give their life wholeheartedly for the Lord, or the door, whichever you want to go about. He is the door. And then see actual fruit of them meaning it. The old Baptist church I used to attend because my grandmother forced me to when I was in junior high. Let's see. I'm trying to do math in my head. 27 years ago, sitting at this old Baptist church, I'm at this old Baptist church, and one of the Sundays I happened not to be there was the pastor is standing from the front of the church and he says, if the bus of the Lord, they're Baptists, so they got buses. If the bus of the Lord shows up to pick you up tomorrow, how many of you are honestly willing and knowing that you're ready to go and that you could stand before Him in that moment? And it just happens to be that the associate pastor and the lead pastor's best friend raises his hand. That man did not wake up the next day. The Lord brought him home. I've heard a lot of other stories about why people went home with the Lord. My own story of why the Lord was ready to bring me home was actually salvation, not because I was ready. He was willing to bring me home early. This is what He told me about a year ago. Because of I was unwilling to make changes and sacrifices in my own life. I was too in love with myself to actually live my life for Him. And so I wanted to do my own thing in my own way, in the way that I saw fit, and justify it all the spiritual ways that I would, or I've already washed my feet and washed my hair. I'm laying in bed. I'm comfortable. I'm content. Just let me die already. But that really changes when it becomes a reality. You're like, well, everything's fine until there's like a awakening moment until the Lord speaks. And then all of a sudden, you're conflicted between what you were comfortable with versus what the Lord's now telling you. The Lord gave me a series of warnings, warning after warning, warning after warning, through random people, through Brad, through a 6-year-old, and I still couldn't wrap my head around it that to really live, I needed to die, but if I didn't, I was going to die. Talk about a word puzzle. I was caught up in myself. I was caught up in my purpose, my destiny. I was caught up in what made me feel comfortable, what made me feel good, but I couldn't get my head around the fact that none of that was the Lord. So I'd have dreams, and I'd have moments where the Lord would come and visit me. And it was the final time where the Lord said, you know what, Wesley, if you don't make changes, I'm going to bring you home. So start writing right now. And I thought, in conventional West wisdom, if you don't start writing, He won't bring you home. So I didn't write anything. That was, you said if I need to start writing so you can bring me home, but if I don't start writing, guess what you're not doing? You ain't bringing me home. How's that? And that worked for a couple weeks until I got rebuked by a 6-year-old. But I had another one of those dreams. I've had a couple of dreams that are similar to what I had before. And when Mickey asked, he said, hey, will you speak next Sunday? And he said this last Sunday, not this Sunday, but he said, last Sunday, will you speak today? And I said, yeah. And I said, Lord, what do you want me to share on? And he just said, eulogy. And I was like, all right, we'll talk about death, I guess. And then a couple nights later, I end up having this dream. And in this dream, I'm walking with the Lord, and all I see are feet. I just see feet. That's all I see. And they look definitely better than my football feet, from wearing cleats for years. But I'm walking with the Lord, and I can just hear Him talking to me, and I knew in that moment He was walking me to the cross. And it was understood at this moment that I'd already had 2 nails put into me. But the next place that I was about to get crucified was going to be in my feet. That was where the 3rd nail had to go. And we're walking, and then this is what it reminded me of, is as I'm laying in the operating table in Mexico, This actually really happened. This wasn't in the dream. I was laying on the operating table in Mexico as I was getting ready to have, 14-inch swords jabbed into my stomach. And I start freaking out on the operating table. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I can't do this. I want control back, but I'm laying down nearly in a crucified-looking state because they got these little arm things that come out, and so I got these, they're like ready to strap my arms down, and my feet are straight in front of me, and the most exposed I've ever been in my life in that moment, because they don't care. They're ready to jab and poke. And they're not letting anything get in the way, kind of like the Lord. And so I'm standing up, I'm laying there, and I start freaking out on the operating table. And the anesthesiologist who's behind me, and he's like, what's going on, buddy? And I'm like, don't you, what's going on, buddy, to me? You know what's going on. And he was so gentle. So gentle. He just kind of takes the mask and he goes, it's okay, just breathe. And he's pressing it into me. Just breathe a little bit, in his kind of Spanglish accent. Señor, just breathe. Un momento. And I'm like, and I'm out. But he was so gentle about it. They could have strapped me down, and try to hold, whatever, They were thinner. I was bigger. I could push people around if I needed to. And in this dream, the Lord was very much the same way. Because I'm starting to freak out. I don't want to do this. I'm not ready for this. I do not want to go and get the last nail. I was good with the other 2. I was comfortable with the other 2. But I didn't want this third one. Anxiety flared up, fear rose up, the need for control flared up. If you're wondering, control is fear and anxiety. And I didn't want to go through it, but he just kept walking with me. He didn't give up on me. He just kept walking. And all I had to do was keep listening to his voice. And that's what I had to do to even go through the surgery. I know every time I've spoken the last 6 months, everything goes back to the surgery that I had to do. But when something changes your life, like the Lord changes your life, because it was the Lord for me to go through that process. It's not even in my notes, and still somehow it came out. But I just had to keep listening to his voice so that I could go through the process, go through the death, to go to the cross. See, I can walk myself to the cross, and I can go ahead and I can take on 2/3 of the nails by myself. I can hammer my own hand down and maybe use my foot, if I was really flexible, to hammer the other nail down. But when it comes down to it, it's going to take a third party to put in that last nail. How many of you are married? That's your third party. That's why Paul said it's better to be single. I kid. Because there will be a third party no matter which way it goes. But if we can get over our fear, and the mind goes, well, I'm not afraid. If you're already combating that, guess what? And you're wanting to be in control. Because the reality is this, oh, I'm ready to die. Then why haven't you died yet? If you walk in with an opinion of anyone in this room, you haven't died yet. Well, I don't like the carpet. Well, the carpet don't like you either. You're stepping on it. But you don't see it criticizing you. Oh man, here she comes again with her dirty shoes. It's not like she's never stepped on a doormat. No, the carpet just lays here. We got to become more like the carpet. I think if we spend a little bit more time on the carpet, we might be a little bit more like the carpet. Go to Philippians 3. I'm going to read this from the Passion Translation, so it's not going to make sense to most people. It's just basically like Chewbacca talking the whole time. And that's what the Passion Translation sounds like. True story, when I really got saved in a Korean church, I thought they were praying in Korean, and then I found out they were praying in tongues, and I was a little confused. I was like, someone I'd known most of my whole life is over here, whatever. And I was like, man, I've never heard you speak Korean before. I've heard your mom, but not you. And then I found out it was tongues. This Philippians 3:10. Again, I'm reading from the Passion. And I continually long to know the wonders of Jesus and to experience the overflowing power of His resurrection working in me. Let's just stop there for a second. How is the overflowing power of resurrection working in you? The overflowing power of resurrection doesn't work in you if you're alive. Why would resurrection come to something that's living? If you got any form of breath inside of you, let me put it in a different way. If you have any form of criticism, opinion, judgment, unbelief, doubt, fear, insecurities, If you're listening to all those things that I just listed and then said, I don't have a single one of those, I'm perfectly fine, you are still alive. You're not dead. Dead men don't talk. Dead men don't think. They're just dead. Think of Weekend at Bernie's. Most of y'all have probably seen that, right? Like, dead guy, and you got two people controlling him. And it's the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. If you're lucky, if you're dead, He's the one controlling you. But the moment you start showing a little bit of life, you ain't dead. I said in the beginning, to know Jesus in His death and suffering is the greatest invitation into intimacy one could ever experience. And when we really think about it, to walk with anyone who's struggling, anyone who's going through hardship, when's the greatest bond created? When you're walking through hardship. A great marriage is not produced in good times. A great marriage is produced when you're going through the trenches and you start realizing that you can really trust one another in the process. When you can really trust the other person while you're walking through the trenches together and then come out the other side. Because when you come out the other side of those trenches, whether it's in marriage or whether it's any form of other types of relationship, when you come out through the other side, it becomes a reality that you can trust that person, because trust is like when you can put your name in their mouth and you know they're not speaking ill of you. So when you can walk through the death and the suffering with Jesus, one, your faith is created and established and grows. Secondly, His trust in you in that moment, the reason why He could trust Job was because He knew already what Job had gone through. So you got to remember, we come in the middle, kind of like some later on parts of Job's life. We don't know what he walked through already before that. But then but the Lord says, no, my servant Job, I know I can trust him. That's what, think about it. The Lord trusting you looks like you going through hell. It is not what popular Christianity, charismatic Christianity, any of that, it's not what any of that says, where it's like, well, if the Lord trusts you, He's going to give you riches. You probably accumulated that yourself, tough guy. The Lord trusting you doesn't look like becoming America's next top prophet. It doesn't look like becoming the chief supreme apostle of all apostles. It looks like death. Because the people I've met that are truly walking out things aren't giving themselves titles. They ain't patting themselves on the back. They're not boasting in who they are. They're boasting in who He is. It's the realization that if He didn't exist in my life, I don't breathe. I don't exist. And anything that does exist outside of that isn't really of Him in the first place. It's of my own will. But we constantly reinforce the idea of getting smarter, getting better, getting stronger, getting richer, doing these things on our own because, I don't know. I don't know what the significance of it is. You got Paul. I'm grateful with little, I'm grateful with much. But let's be honest. Don't put me in a third world country where I have to take a cold shower and have no internet. I want one or the other. Give me Wi-Fi or give me... No. But that's us. We don't like being inconvenienced. We don't like detouring our path. We don't like when somebody doesn't follow through with what they said they're going to do. And then we think that we have a right to be angry about it. But if we could look at every opportunity of inconvenience, what we call suffering in the church, what we call suffering in the churches right now is like, nothing takes me out of like a good holy moment with the Lord in worship than me hearing the sound differential in the subs. I don't know if you guys noticed on the last song, I can't control the mix because it's already done out, and they put too many lows into it because they wanted to like rock the place. And so, but that's how they also put out their video of it. And so I'm over here going like, how can I fix this? You know, and then I start hearing the volume differences in the room, and man, and then I'm going, and then my mind goes, well, no one can worship now because the worship doesn't even sound good. It was. But that's where my mind goes. So I'm over there trying to fine-tune anything, and I don't know if you've ever tried to fine-tune anything in your life, you just make it worse. Bill makes fun of me. He goes, why would you go to a barber? You cut off all your hair. I was like, because if I try to fix this on my own, I'm going to ruin it. If I've learned anything with walking with Jesus, if I try to save myself, all I'm doing is perpetuating my salvation. I'm just causing it to be further out. But each moment, each inconvenience is an invitation to walk closer with Him, to find Him, to get to know Him more. Each and every time. We get to know Him. How many of you had a bunch of errands to run yesterday? You had stuff you had to get done. And the last thing you want is to be detoured. Like right now, I was coming from Lowe's, which is on Uri, but I also had to go to Home Depot by my house, which I live over off of by Pines Road. And the main thoroughfare is West 70th. And the problem is West 70th has road construction that's been going on for since the 70s. And so I can't go from West 70th to Pines Road. So what I ultimately end up having to do is go detouring. And as I'm coming out to go there, the Lord says, you need to go to Taco Bell. And I'm like, I don't want to go to Taco Bell. What the heck do I need to go to Taco Bell for? I'm like, I got enough issues with my stomach. With normal food, I don't need Taco Bell food to... So I go to Taco Bell because I need to be obedient. And I get up to the person, the cashier, and I'm one car back, and the Lord says, you need to tell her that she's my princess. And there's honestly nothing really more awkward. What's up, girl? The Lord wants you to know you're His princess. And can I get some fire sauce too? Back in my high school days, Taco Bell hot sauce was like trading commodity because I went to a continuation school because I wasn't going to graduate, and so it turned into currency. Like I was out there on the yard trading packs of Cools. Some of y'all got that. Some of y'all need to get cultured. Huh? Okay, all right. But I had to do it. And she goes, oh, I really needed to hear that. And I'm like, can I was like, and I'm sitting here thinking, I worked in a restaurant. The last thing you want is somebody to be super spiritual and religious and go, can I pray with you? Because you got things to do. You got people to move through, but there was no one behind me. So I was like, hey, can I pray with you? She goes, oh, that would be great. And I'm praying for her, which was really just code, can I say I'm praying with you so I can pause this moment longer and figure out what the rest of what the Lord is saying to you. And so I'm able to encourage her and because she's sitting in this drive-thru and I found out she's having this incredible hard time that day and she's not sleeping because of what's going on at her house. but I'm the one telling her. Well, the Lord sees what's going on at your house, and I know you haven't been sleeping because there's a lot of loud noises because people are fighting at night, but He sees you, and I said, you want everything inside of you wants to run, but don't. Scripture actually tells you to be still and know that He is God. So just be still and trust that He will do what He's going to do and what He said He would do. Just be still. And she's looking around at her coworkers because, that moment where you kind of want to ugly cry, but you're like, you don't want to do it in front of people. You're like, you could feel the weight of it, like back here, and it's just like, hey, you're gonna cry, But you got to find somewhere to hide. The walk-in at a restaurant when you're working there, good place. So each inconvenient moment is a step into an invitation with Him. Let's look at John 17. It's actually Jesus' desire. John 17, verse 20. I do not pray for these alone, but also for those who will believe in me through their word, that they all may be one, as you, Father, are in me, and I in you, that they also may be one in us, that the world may believe that you sent me, and that the glory which you gave me I have given them, that they may be one just as we are one, I in them and you in me, that we may be made perfect in one, and that the world may know that you have sent me, and have loved them as you have loved me. Father, I desire that they also whom you gave me may be with me where I am, that they may behold my glory, which you have given me. For you have loved me before the foundation of the world. Righteous Father, the world has not known you, but I have known you, and these have known you that you sent me. And I have declared to them your name, and will declare that the love which you have loved me be in them, and I in them. To be one with Him, to really walk with Him, is to walk with Him to the cross. Not many did. Not many do. Jack, how many people went with Him to the cross?
It was Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of Jesus, and John, and one other. That's it.
So, out of the core, he had 12 plus 2, that's 14. So about 4 out of 14. Let me break that down. How many people are in here roughly? Where are my numbers, people? Come on, guys.
30.
There's approximately 30. So 4 out of 14, that's about a third. So about 10. So hypothetically, 10 people are willing to go to the cross with the Lord in this room. Hypothetically. That means, hypothetically, 20 plus of us are holding on to our lives. But if we hold on to our lives, we actually end up losing it. But if we willingly give up our life like Jesus did, we end up gaining life. But we must be willing to give it up. And I give it to others. Well, before you're willing to give it to others, you got to give it to Him. Because we know death, because He first showed us death. Yeah, we're getting into doctrine. I can care less about that. They repented and they came back, which means there's an opportunity to get on track. There's an opportunity. There's an invitation to come back. There's an invitation to repent and die. So the only formula that the Lord has given us to follow Him, to love Him, to obey Him is to die, to give up our lives. going to the cross. And then we can pick up our cross for others. We go to the cross, we die for others, we give our lives to them. Brings a different understanding to pick up your cross daily and deny yourself. We think it's about getting saved every day. It's about getting right with the Lord every day. Don't sin. Do not speed. Do not cut. Don't give that person the bird, John. He's watching. You got to take up your cross daily. That's how we apply it. But what if taking up our cross every day looked like going, God, I give my life to you. I give my day to you. What do you want me to do for this person today? Or who would you like me to speak with today? Who do you have a word? Who's on your heart today? That's in the group of people I know, Lord. Who's around me that is on your heart today? And then He tells you that person that irritates you. And then we have to go and do that. A number of years ago, I was at Sunday morning listening to YouTube while the dude's preaching. And I'm sitting there, and I was going through a pretty rough time at this point in my life. Had some interesting leadership scenarios a year or so before that, and the Lord was really dealing with me and my arrogance and my self-righteousness and my pride. Because I became like, the two men go into the synagogue, one's over here, God, don't let me be like that sinner over there. And I was being like that dude, not the sinner, like the Pharisee. Well, at least I'm not him. At least I didn't do that. I didn't, And I'm sitting in the back, just having a moment. And I go into this vision. And in this vision, I see myself in a casket. Some of you 90s rock people are about to be very happy. I'm in a casket, very, And Jesus walks up and He puts a rose on my chest. And I start hearing this song play. In the vision. In something I'm seeing, I'm hearing a song play. And these are the lyrics. You claimed all this time that you would die for me. So why are you so surprised when you hear your own eulogy? So long, we wish you well. You told us how you weren't afraid to die. Well, so long, don't cry or feel too down. Start hearing this song called Eulogy. I was shocked in my own death experience. Even though I'm sitting there, been in those moments like, Lord, set me on fire so the world can watch me burn. But just make sure it's not too hot. I was thinking hot tub, not inferno. That'd be great. Thank you, sauna. But we find ourselves in that moment of being uncomfortable. We find ourselves in that moment of going, I don't like this. And we start trying to rebuke the enemy, but we don't realize that Jesus was the one walking us to the grave the whole time. Lord, deliver us, take us out of Egypt. It's like He doesn't even care for us as they're picking up manna. Well, it'd be nice if we had some quail too. We're thirsty. We don't like Moses. I have an idea. Let's make a giant cow. And then they named it McDonald's. But that's us. Deliver us, God. Do this for us, God. And then He answers the prayer. And we turn around and complain about the way He answered the prayer. Like we all of a sudden just rewrote worship songs. We went from "It's all about you" to "It's all about me, Jesus. All of this for me." You know, you should do things my way, because in my head I alone am God. But it sounds ironic when we sing it, but it's how we live it. I love each of you with the same love that the Father loves me. You must continually let my love nourish your hearts. If you keep my commands, you will live in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands. For I continually live nourished and empowered by His love. My purpose for telling you these things is so that the joy that I experience will fill your heart with overflowing gladness. So this is my command. Love each other deeply as much as I have loved you. For the greatest love of all is a love that sacrifices all. And this great love is demonstrated when a person sacrifices his life for his friends. You show that you are my intimate friends when you obey all that I command you. I've never called you servants, because a master doesn't confide in his servants, and a servant don't always understand what the master is doing. But I call you my most intimate and cherished friends, for I reveal to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You didn't choose me, but I have chosen and commissioned you to go into the world to bear fruit, and your fruit will last, because whatever you ask of my Father for my sake, He will give it to you. So this is my parting command to you: love one another deeply. But this only comes about if you're willing to die for one another realistically. Someone once said this, that if they don't have your heart, they can't break it. But if they have your heart, they can break it. If we're not loving to the extent in which someone can break your heart, then we're not loving them. We haven't died enough. I love them with the love of Jesus. I don't know what that is. He just said love them. He didn't say love them with some third-party love. No, what do you need to go up and be like, here's Jesus' life? But no, Jesus said lay down your life, and that will show them that you love them. But what does that look like? What does laying down your life really look like? Looks like Jack leaving in the middle of my message. I'm kidding. He had to throw away his trash. We have an invitation to love deeply, to love Him deeply, to love others deeply. Which is a really nice, sweet way to say you have an invitation to die. There is no resurrection power in partiality. There's resurrection power in whole death. If you're partially alive, you don't need resurrection power, you need a defibrillator. Walking in actual death, we're going to change it. Instead of walking in love, we're going to talk about walking in death. You don't walk in with a preconceived idea or a judgment or a notion about an individual or a people group. You lay down your crowns when you walk wherever you go, whoever you're with. You lay them down. You become like the elders who are circling around the throne, and as they lay down their crowns and they cry out day and night, He is holy. But when you come up to other people, you lay down your crowns, your self-righteousness, your alleged holiness, which isn't holy, and then everything else that you think you have that makes you like super. and go, how can I serve you? That's how Daniel was able to win the heart of the king. I actually know somebody who stepped away from their ministry and started working in a psychic hotline. And the amount of even the people who they thought would understand, no, I'm not going to tell you who it is. And even the people they thought would understand this, criticized and ridiculed. But Daniel was essentially the supervisor of the, psychic hotline of today. It was almost like Daniel was Miss Cleo's psychic. Y'all remember those commercials? Like, 10 o'clock at night. Call Miss Cleo right now. Tell you your future. You have questions about love. We must humble ourselves. Lay down our self-righteousness. The right to think that we are right, or the right to be offended. Our opinions. Our complaining. Our self-gain mentality of like, oh, this is going to make me really happy. Or self-promotion. Manipulation is way more subtle than it is obvious. But we need to learn how to cast that away. Greed. Greed isn't just about money. Greed can come in many forms. We want to run from every Judas in our life. I don't need those people in my life. I need to fulfill my destiny, fulfill my calling. I'm not going to have those types of people around me, those people that challenge me, those people that make my life challenging. Judas was a necessity for the cross. You don't have Judas changing out 30 pieces of silver. You need a Judas in your life. Because it always takes a third person to put the hammer and the nail to work. It doesn't mean we go around calling that. Jesus broke bread with Judas and washed his feet, just like if it was Peter or John. In the picture of ministry, what it looks like is being really nice and really courteous and really relational to your big donors, but not talking so much to your small donors. I'm guilty of it. I did it. And then you circle back around every time you need breakthrough. In business, it looks like paying more attention to your high-paying clients versus the smaller clients. Not giving them the same amount of attention, not giving them the same amount of a fair shake. In relationships or people, well, this person doesn't show up all the time, and so I'm not going to really focus on building relationship with them because, they're not really a part of the family unit. They're not consistent. This person seems like they got a lot going on in their life. I don't really have time for that drama. Better make time. Maybe that person's not coming consistently because they don't feel like they're grafted into the family because no one's spending time with them. I just want to play devil's advocate in every situation like that because we don't understand what's going on in somebody's life. If you have a problem with the fact that I said devil's advocate, get over it. I don't care. We don't know what's going on in someone's life and why something happened, but we always want to jump to the conclusion and thinking that we understand and fully know everything about that person's life because we see social media or because they come here and they act like they have everything together. But meanwhile, you know, a lot of ministers don't ride together with their family on Sunday mornings to avoid getting into a fight, an argument. You're driving too fast. Make a right here. We needed to get coffee. Like whatever, you know. Speeding through. You made me late. You know, all that stuff. Here's what dying looks like. If I were to speak with eloquence in the earth's many languages, in the heavenly tongues of angels, yet I didn't express myself with love, my words would be reduced to the hollow sound of nothing more than a clanging cymbal. Everything in me right now is dying to not give an example, because we got symbols. And if I were to have the gift of prophecy with a profound understanding of God's hidden secrets, and if I possessed an unending supernatural knowledge, and if I had the greatest gift of faith that could move mountains but never learn to love, then I am nothing. If I were to be so generous as to give away everything I own, to feed the poor, and to offer my body to be burned as a martyr without pure motive, love, I would gain nothing of value. Love is large and incredibly patient. Love is gentle and consistently kind to all. It refuses to be jealous when blessing comes to someone else. Love does not brag about one's achievements nor inflate its own importance. Love does not traffic in shame and disrespect, nor selfishly seek its own honor. Love is not easily irritated. That is my biggest issue, honestly. I get so easily irritated. I can go 0 to 60 in like negative seconds. I'm like Back to the Future with irritability sometimes. Love is not easily irritated or quick to take offense. Love joyfully celebrates honesty and finds no delight in what is wrong. Love is a safe place of shelter. If you're here this morning and if you don't feel safe, I'm sorry. We failed you. If you're here and you don't feel like you can go through your dirt, go through the mud that life has brought upon you because you feel like you're going to be exposed, then we failed you. And I'm sorry. That wasn't the Lord. You should feel safe. For it never stops believing the best for others. Love never takes failure as defeat, for it never gives up. Love never stops loving. I had to face a really strong battle one time with that. Some people that are close and dear to me and all of the Christian world were against them, asking for their heads. And everyone's walking away from them. And to an extent, I had to make some distance myself, but my heart was torn because I loved them. You'd be considered a Christian social outcast if you showed that love publicly to them. And I've found myself in those situations before. But love is not silent. When I think about love, I think about the movie Elf. And he's walking out and he's like, I'm in love and I don't care who knows it. Because Jesus didn't care. Jesus sat there in Matthew 9, he sat there with the sinners and the tax collectors, the worst of the worst. And then he went and the Pharisees go, how are you doing this? The Christians, charisma, whoever it is. How can you have dinner with those people? I desire mercy and not sacrifice. The outside of your cup is clean, but the inside's growing mold. Love never stops loving. It extends beyond the gift of prophecy, which eventually fades away. It is more enduring than tongues, which will one day fall silent. Love remains long after words of knowledge are forgotten. Our present knowledge and our prophecies are but partial. But when love's perfection arrives, the partial will fade away. Love looks a lot like death, guys. It's not pointing out what's different. Not pointing out what's wrong. People don't need to know they have skinned knees. I guarantee you they already know. But it looks like us dying to our religious nature, our opinions, our self-indulged alleged callings. You got to understand, I came out of this stuff where it was all about fulfilling your calling, all about living out your destiny, building your ministry, building your legacy, building all this crap that doesn't even matter because it gets burned up anyways. Just following him. You will find yourself with some very unlikely people. I mean, I found myself in Shreveport. And then somehow took on an accent. I'm from California. I don't have an accent. I speak God's language. I'm from California. Dude. Love looks like dying. Willingly. But if we have to be dragged through it, it's going to keep happening until we do it willfully. Looks like letting go of what you want and what you think is right in your opinion, and just loving. John, there's a season of refreshing that's coming upon you. Like I saw a waterfall that was just falling down both of you. And in this waterfall came a tornado, and it's going to be divine chaos that's going to take place, but it's part of the winds of change. Some things are changing direction. It's not going the way you probably planned in like your 10-year plan if you have one. I don't know if you even have one. But I just see the Lord bringing this refreshing time over you, and He's going to give you a grace to ride the tornado. It's going to be like the bucking bronco. But if you just stay on. You know much about rodeos? You just need 7 seconds, bud. Just dig your heels in and ride, man. Just dig your heels and ride. Have a good time when you're doing it. But he's going to refresh you in that process. Everyone else is going to go, man, you're less falling apart and going to hell, and and a few other adjectives we won't say because we're live streaming. But here you go. It's the best time of my life. Has anyone been dealing with, like, today even especially, like, headaches, migraines? Come here. Both of you, come here. If you've had a headache or a migraine, just come up here. just ask that you just break this right now. Every form of the tension and the headache, just release. No more rob sleep. Lord, I just thank you right now. Just open up the vessels, the capillaries right now. Let there be free. Let dreams come, more dreams and understanding. Lord, I pray for the wisdom and understanding to be upon her life. Remove the headaches right now, the tension. Thank you, Lord. Someone have kidney issues? Kidney. Come here, man. I was ready to stop, and the Lord said, no, you got to pray for kidneys. Lord, I just ask right now. Jack. Creative miracle, Lord. Creative miracle in his kidneys right now. And renewed vision. Renewed vision. If you just grab a hold of it, the Lord's breaking depression right now. He's breaking right now. Every form of depression is breaking. Night terrors. You just think it's been nightmares, but it's been happening frequently. Those are ceasing. Jennifer, it's a new day. It's a new day. It's a dawning of a new day for you. I saw the sun rising behind you. And it's a brand new time. It's a brand new, I hate to use the word season, but like I just heard him say it's a dawning of a new day. And the sun's rising up behind you in your midst. Like, and he's doing something that's behind the surface that you're like, God, I want to see, but he's not showing you. It's going to require faith. It's very much kind of like where you lures her out into the wilderness and speaks softly. And so he's not showing you what he's doing right now, but it's going to create faith. For you, that's your death. But when you walk in it, it'll be your resurrection. And so he's rising up behind you. It's not for you to look back. You didn't miss anything. I feel like that's important for you to know. You have not missed anything. The sun will rise up behind you, but you'll see that it'll cast light in front of you and it'll illuminate where you're going. And you're going to see the hill of the Lord, the mountain of the Lord for you to walk into.
I wanted to share something that made me think of you when you said about your surgery that always comes up.
Yeah.
And I feel like that too with what I went through. And yesterday morning, I got my hair cut, and all my chemo curls were cut off.
Mm.
And I felt like that was something
Yeah,
And I truly felt like that was a sign for me that
it was.
all that's in the past now, and the Lord's gonna bring me into that definitely goes along with what I think.
Yeah. It's a new day. It's the dawning of a new day. Nothing to look back to, only to look forward. Anything before we go? Anyone need prayer for anything?
Wes, I got a couple things. Jeff and Diana, I just saw y'all hanging out of your backyard. You've got to start to be very purposeful in your family, and there's going to be you've got to purposely create times to get together with just you and the kids, and then y'all two specifically. This is kind of a weird one. Stacy, I heard the word say, you know, talking about Jack. Jack is one weird dude, but the coolest dude I know. That's what I heard. And I'm sorry, I can't think of your name right here. What's your name? Yeah.
Cat.
Cat? Cat?
Cat, yeah.
Are you looking for a new job or